Welcome back to the journey, everybody. Today we are talking diet again. We're going to compare and contrast what I'm doing right now with Carnivore Diet, which was what I did last year. But before we jump into the video, make sure you subscribe and enable those notifications so you never miss another video. Now, I want to say that there were some good things that came out of Carnivore Diet. Mainly, I gained an increased awareness over what food does in the body. When you are in ketosis, you have different sensations going on. Your breath kind of turns a little fruity. Basically taken your body and said, I'm going to use a different energy source than what we typically do, from carbs to fat. And just kind of feeling different. I felt like my energy level was pretty stagnant throughout the day. Whatever energy I had at the beginning of the day was the energy level that I had pretty much throughout, because there's not really this peak and valley with the release of insulin and the release of glucagon to like bring that energy into the cells. So that was one of the things that I noticed, is that energy level was pretty stagnant. Now with carnivore, on top of the diet, on top of the fact that I'm trying a new diet, I was cued in a little bit more to what was happening. I was more aware of certain things. So we use biofeedback a lot. What sensations are you having? Stools, mental acuity, like just sort of putting your sensations under the microscope as you trial a restrictive diet like this is helpful, because then you can kind of not necessarily see if the diet works for you, but you can learn something about your body. And that's kind of how I take all of these challenges is, you know, if it works, great, but ultimately it's what can I learn about the challenge that I take on, and take the pieces that work and leave the pieces that don't, and integrate that into what my diet needs to be. So now let's talk about some things that I didn't like about the diet. The main reason I quit was the blood panel. And someone who is a proponent of carnivore might say, you know, that's a really good thing. Like, your blood panels are showing what we would expect from, you know, utilizing more fat as your fuel source. And so that means higher LDL, higher triglycerides, higher HDL. My ratio was actually pretty good, still within the normal range, but I just didn't want to balk at traditional Western medicine and say, hey, all of this correlational studies, all of these studies say that having these high blood markers is kind of a risk factor. So when you put that along with some of these other things that I didn't like, it just didn't make sense for me to continue. So the next thing that I didn't really like were my stools. When you don't eat a lot of fiber, there's not a lot of waste products. Your body uses a lot of the meats that you're using, and there's more water than anything in meat. So my stools were harder and infrequent, and sometimes darker. So it was more unpleasant to pass stools. Whereas when I have a ton of cauliflower, it's more snake-like and you pass it very easily, which is something that I like. I don't want to sit on the toilet for 30 minutes just waiting. I want to get it done and get it over with. So that was one thing. Another thing that I noticed was my gym performance went down. I wasn't lifting super heavy, but when you don't have an ability to peak your energy level with the carbohydrates, then you have to utilize whatever energy that you have at the start of the day, that as I mentioned. And that just didn't necessarily work for me. I want to have like a really good workout and just crush weights. So that necessarily didn't work for me. The next piece was, I don't cook all of my meals. My cousin helps me out with some of the cooking. So she's not doing carnivore. So just the feasibility of the diet with somebody else who's eating with you, that just is another consideration of like, if you have a partner, are they cooking or are they eating? You know, if you're a single person, carnivore might be a little bit more feasible to take on, unless you're gonna have your partner or your kids do it with you. The last piece is carnivore is pretty expensive, especially if you're buying high quality meats. It costs a lot to pick up that food. It's a high priority item. So those are all the things that I necessarily didn't like about carnivore, and I've kind of learned a lot from the experience. And I want to touch now on some of the testing that I've been doing in order to help optimize and get some more objective data on what I'm looking at, and we can explore if those things are right for you. So consider that my new goal is to increase my weight about 10 pounds. I want to weigh about 160 and be fit and lean, not just big. So that's the goal. So consider I'm trying to eat more. The biggest change I've made recently is eating breakfast, eating a third meal, so that I get a few more calories in the day. And I am what I would consider a mesomorph. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm not a really skinny ectomorph who's really tall and lanky, and I'm not an endomorph who tends to be, they're just bigger people. So I can go one way or the other in terms of the size continuum, but it is a little bit tougher for me to gain lean weight. I can gain weight pretty easily and lose it pretty easily, but a lot of the time it's just fat or water weight, and that's not what I want. I want it to be muscle, very valuable tissue. So keeping that in mind, I've recently done a DEXA scan. DEXA stands for Dual Energy X-ray Absorptiometry. People tend to do this for looking at their bone health, their bone density, but if you tweak the software package, you can also look at your lean mass, your fat mass, and your bone mass, which is good. So I did that just to get a baseline. There's not a lot you can do with just one scan, but ultimately right now my body fat percentage is right around 22, and that considers both subcutaneous and visceral fat. It just takes a more overarching view of how much fat you have, whereas some of the other body weight calculations, maybe air displacement or water displacement, you can't see inside under your muscle mass. Under your organs. So the DEXA is really accurate up to 1%, which is what the technician was telling me. They have this Bodyspec is who puts it on. They have Oregon, some in California, Dallas, Austin. It's basically just like a truck, transit van that somebody might do van life in. You just go in, you lay down, and they scan you, and then you're done. So use that as a baseline. There's also blood panels. You can check your weight. There's lots of different testing modalities, but that's the one I'm going to do as a baseline. Hopefully I can see that I'm making gains in the size and also lean mass area. So now let's jump into what I'm doing now and some of the supplements that I'm taking, some of the foods I'm eating. I obviously want to continue to gain weight, but I don't want to sacrifice my GI health, my mental acuity, or my performance in the gym for those things. Why carnivore didn't work, some of those things weren't optimal, and so I'm trying to find something that's maybe a little bit more balanced, maybe a little bit more in between, that's going to give me all of these things that I want. Right now, I'm eating more plants, and like I said, I'm starting to eat breakfast as well. So in the morning, I might have white rice, a few eggs, and that's a good start to my day. And then I'm also doing a potassium, water, and salt, sort of like an adrenal cocktail, if you've ever heard of that. Without the vitamin C, I take that supplementally, and that's a good way to start the electrolytes in your body. So I've been doing tea more so than coffee as well in the morning. So a couple of the drinks that I'm doing, if I fast in the morning, I will also have a collagen protein with some cinnamon. Cinnamon, ginger, and capsaicin have been purported to have a little bit of a cutting effect, like a natural cutting. So I'm trying to integrate those a little bit more, hot sauce, those kinds of things to flavor, not only flavor, but get their beneficial effects. Ultimately, I food prep and I'm making like a broccoli, mushrooms, meats, of course, carbs, rice, and potatoes, and slowly adding more variety with the cauliflower, and that's what I'm adding this week. What I've noticed, my GI tract is more sensitive than I would like. I don't do gluten. I can't put anything in my body. Maybe that's just because I have a greater awareness of what I do and don't like. You can tell your stomach, there's discomfort, you have gas. You can judge, based on your stools, how your body is kind of reacting to this, whatever you eat. When I have gluten, mentally, I'm not as sharp, feel foggy, feel kind of slow, and then ultimately it also impacts my GI system. It changes my stools, and that's not what I want. So that's kind of what I have started to do, kind of practicing with different vegetables, more fruits, and just sort of seeing what works and what doesn't. With breakfast, I take vitamin D, fish oil, a joint supplement, MSM, chondroitin, and hyaluronic acid. And then I'll also do a zinc chelate. Chelate means that the zinc is bound with a protein so that it absorbs better and doesn't upset your stomach quite as much. And then I'll also try to take a vitamin C supplement. It's an ester C. Ester C is a timed release vitamin C, so your body can hold on to it. C is one of those water-soluble vitamins, so if your body doesn't need it, you just pee it out when you take it in excess amounts. So the ester C helps blunt that effect so that you don't just pee all of it out as it breaks down a little more slowly. At night, I take a magnesium glycinate just to calm down, kind of shut down from the day, get good rest. And then I mentioned the collagen protein. When I fast, if I am doing a big weights gym workout, I will take some creatine monohydrate. I try to do that with a sugar that also helps it to bind and pull into your body. So kind of a recap on the food: meats, vegetables, fruits, and then I'm adding in different supplements that I think can help optimize the health and then also my performance in the gym. So far, gut's been happy. I've been watching the weight tick up. I actually had a patient this week. I saw her way back when I first started, and she's back for another complaint. And she was like, "You look different. You look bigger." And I'm like, yes, finally. And so just kind of getting little feedback there that what I'm doing seems to be working, trying to stay lean while getting bigger. I've noticed that my clothes are fitting a little tighter, which is a good biofeedback indicator that you're building muscle. If your weight stays the same and your clothes are fitting tighter, you're putting on mass in the right way. You want to make sure that you're not just building fat, you're also building muscle. You can't necessarily do one without the other, but you can kind of do them in concert and build muscle, burn fat, build muscle, burn fat. And it's sort of like you hit the build button and then you hit the cut button, and you do them kind of alternatingly, and that helps you move the needle in the right direction. It's called a recomposition, and it's not as efficient as if you were just, okay, I'm going to build, and then I'm gonna cut. And that's typically what the bodybuilders do. But the recomposition works fine because I'm in this for the long haul. It's not like I'm just gonna do it for a little bit. So if you want more information about what I'm eating, supplements that I'm taking, go ahead and leave a comment down below. As you interact and you become more aware of what you're putting in your body, utilizing these intuitive kind of biofeedback and different scans, you'll find that the fad diets aren't necessarily what you need and what is best for you. I think the restrictive nature of them is a good framework to learn what your body likes and what your body doesn't. If you're looking for more personalized advice in diet and exercise, email me. My email is in the description, and we can find a time to chat and discuss if coaching would be right for you. It's a good framework to learn what your body likes and what your body doesn't. It's more scientific when you restrict things rather than you just kind of shotgun approach. You change a bunch of stuff. You don't know what's truly working and what truly isn't. And that's why I really like the fad diets. I know that carnivore probably wasn't the best thing for me within the first week I did it, but the restrictive nature helped me learn to push me along in my eating journey. So that is it for today's video. Thank you all for coming by today and spending a little bit of time with me. Keep moving, fam, and much love.